Hello and welcome to This Week on Planet Earth. I'm your co-host Jacob.
And I'm your co-host Matty, where each week we break down the latest space exploration, science and technology news.
So without further ado, let's get into this week's stories. So I'll kick it off with this week with our first story, and that is Bitcoin has finally surpassed the $40,000 mark again, which is great if you're a crypto collector. It's been a long time coming and it's been some uncertainty for the last month for sure. And yeah, it's really good to finally see it back up because it obviously helps all the other ones as well. So it's been good. It's been a good day for the market.
Yeah, it's been a bit. What did it get to at one point? Was it about 56, something like that?
Yeah, it was. Well, I think it got up to $67,000 at one point, and then Elon Musk took the payment off Tesla and then started tweeting about its like energy usage and stuff. But I think there was a giant Bitcoin conference like last week and the week before that in Miami, and I think they managed to like lower some of the energy usages and stuff. So it's looking good for the future of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so moving on to my first piece. So this was about the spaceport in Cornwall. We've spoken a bit about it on the podcast before. The Cornwall Spaceport have signed a memorandum of understanding with Sierra Nevada Corporation, a US launch company, and they're a subsidiary of that they have a space plane called Dream Chaser, which has been getting a bit of news recently, and they basically signed this sort of understanding with Spaceport in Cornwall to plan to launch things relatively soon. So starting from apparently spring 2022, they're going to start launching from Cornwall, and this company's going to be one of the first to do that. So
that's some great news for the UK because we've been talking about this for ages, like trying to get some launches going and some different things like that. So yeah, it looks really cool as well. It kind of looks like a mix between a manta ray and a stingray, but
yeah,
also kind of like a killer whale. I guess it looks cool.
Yeah, so it's a bit more like a shuttle. I think it's going to land like a plane on the runway. So yeah, it's going to be cool to see that. Hopefully, launching from the UK next year. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. So my next story is a small company called Launcher have announced that they are developing a orbital transfer vehicle. And they announced it on June the 15th, and they are going to also be working on a miniature version of it as well. But essentially what it's going to be for is delivering small satellites to orbit, but it also has plans to be fitted with compartments and components that allow it to be used with a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, which is kind of cool. But they announced that they got £11 million in funding, and they're going to start developing it now, and it'll be able to take 156 kilograms per payload, which is pretty cool. But I love it. I love seeing new companies that are launching stuff for space because it creates competition and innovation, and that's exactly what we want to see in the space age. Although space debris is a problem.
Yeah. Although looking at this, they this launcher thing they've got has got the capability to like tug satellites around. I think to sort of like reposition them in space. So it'd be interesting to see if they do anything about like space debris, because I can imagine this being, it launches stuff and then moves some stuff around. Then at the end of its life, it latches onto something and drags out of orbit. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that.
Yeah, and I think I saw on Twitter as well that it's in a sun synchronous orbit as well, which is kind of cool because obviously you can do some cool stuff with that. And I think I saw as well that they're thinking about doing something where they're looking into solar winds and stuff too, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, it seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, that looks decent. It's my piece next, isn't it? So another bit of space news.
Space Week.
So I recently spoke about how China had launched their new space station, and they are at the end of this week, I think on Saturday, planning to launch astronauts to that space station. So the first astronauts going to be on the Chinese space station relatively soon. So
it's just crazy because I remember when we were like talking about this with the podcast for the Infinite Void back before Christmas, when we were saying like it's crazy how quick they're putting it up, and now it's nuts that they're going to be having astronauts going to it.
Yeah, so yes, it says here the space station main section was only launched about 2 months ago on the 29th of April. So they've turned that around pretty quickly, and people are going to be going up there, presumably to do sort of tests and maintenance to get it actually fully functioning. But yeah, that's a pretty quick turnaround and a big sort of step for China and their space program.
I wonder if any other countries have got like a space station idea on the horizon, because surely we can't just all have space stations. I feel like they should probably be an international effort or something, because they're massive. Well, they're not massive in comparisons to like being in orbit, I guess, but
they're pretty expensive as well. I mean, I'm pretty certain Europe is sort of not planning to do any individual stuff. Europe will either do a European Space Agency sort of mission or something. There's not that many countries and nations that can really afford to do it, so China's one of the few, to be fair. So, but yeah, it looks cool. And yes, it says it's being launched as part of the 100th anniversary of the ruling Communist Party on the 1st of July. So big propaganda brigade as well.
That'll be a good day for them. So I'll move on to my final story, and it's some more space news. And that is that Rocket Lab wins a NASA contract to send a mini science probe to Mars in 2024. And yeah, Rocket Lab have always like prided themselves on making small, inexpensive rockets and satellites, with their like grand ambition of sending like small spacecrafts and stuff for like interplanetary use. And it looks really promising, because after locking this contract in with NASA, they're already sending a small probe to the moon. And then later this year, now they've got their own project with Venus, where they're going to be searching for life. And then this Tuesday, they announced that they're going to be they've won 2 contracts with NASA for a Photon spacecraft to send to Mars. And it looks very promising, because I think they're working alongside California, Berkeley Space Science Laboratory, aren't they?
Yeah, they're working with a lot of sort of partners and universities and things. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Rocket Lab's one of those ones that they do a lot of stuff, but I think they go under the radar a bit compared to sort of SpaceX and stuff. So it's good to see them getting a lot more coverage and see what they do in the future.
Yeah, I've just found it here. The name of the craft is Escapade, and it's Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorer, and it will study Mars's unique hybrid magnetosphere in order to understand how the climate changed over time. So could be cool. It's really cool seeing all of our like neighbors getting loads of attention at the moment.
Yeah. There was that NASA news a while as well. Their sort of moonshot things, what they're planning to do in the future. I think Venus featured quite heavily on that, didn't it? So,
yeah, it's cool. It's like that meme, isn't it, where it's like Earth, like walking next to Earth, and then he's turning around looking at the girl, and it's the other planet. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those, but yeah, it just seems really promising, and it's really cool to see, because like even in like the last year, all these space missions and stuff, they've kind of really ramped up, and it's just good to see that we're like focusing on some positive things whilst the world is so crazy.
Yeah. So my final bit of news is non-space related. So this is about Amazon. So I think we've spoken before about their stores that are sort of walk in, you don't do anything, you just take stuff off the shelf and it charges you to walk out.
Yeah.
They are launching their first sort of full supermarket size store using that technology. So it's going to be in Washington, DC, I believe. Should have checked if it was Washington or Washington State. But yeah, it's in Washington. And yeah, it's going to be a full-size grocery store launching relatively soon. Actually, tomorrow as we record this, so June 17th, it's going to be opening up.
So yesterday when this comes out.
So yeah, and you'll basically be able to buy everything you could possibly want to a grocery store without actually paying for any of it actively. So yeah, that's cool. I think we're going to see a lot more, particularly with the sort of coronavirus and stuff, this idea of cash sort of dying out. We're going to see a lot more of these sort of things over the next couple of years, I think.
I'm all for it. I know some people don't like the idea of everything being digital, but I'm of a generation that has no cash, so let's make everything digital.
I can't even remember the last time I did use cash, to be honest. But
yeah, it's weird. I find it weird even going to like a cash point and stuff nowadays when like you go and get like a takeaway or something and they're like, oh, the card machine doesn't work. It's like, oh, I have to carry money around. This is so weird.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting.
Yeah, that was sort of my last bit of news for this week.
Wicked. Well, yeah, thank you for everybody that tuned into This Week on Planet Earth. Hopefully we've provided you with some stuff that'll make your week look a little bit more hopeful, or the future a little bit more hopeful for you. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give it a thumbs up on YouTube and let us know down in the comment section if we missed anything about any of the things that any of the news like segments that we were talking about, or something that we should maybe bring up in a future episode. And if you want to keep up to date with This Week on Planet Earth, we have an Instagram, which is @TwoOpeNews. And you can also follow the Infinite Void podcast, where we kind of share with tweets on there when these episodes go out. And yeah, we will catch you next week.